Hi, my name is Franchesca Duval, and today I'm going to be talking about quail. So, we've talked about what adults like to have. Let's talk a little bit about chicks and hatching them. We prefer to always ship out hatching eggs to folks and have them hatch out their own quail because quail chicks are so fragile in that first week of life that if you receive chicks from us, which we do ship, we need to raise them up that first week here to ensure that they have a safe travel because their little legs are so wobbly and they need such a tender amount of care in that first week. So our preference is always to ship eggs, but we can ship chicks. They would just be a little bit older, so you kind of miss out on that really cute stage. There is nothing cuter in the poultry world than a fresh quail chick. The scent of them, the feel of them, if there's a bunch of them that have hatched and you kind of gently move your hand about in the box, it feels like you're touching the back of a seal. They're just so soft and so sweet. And the little sound they make sounds like and if you have hundreds of them making that little sound calling to you, it's really darling. For the first week of life, they're so tender, they need to have a lot of heat. So we have really large brooders that we like to raise them in so they have plenty of space to scatter about and get their legs underneath them. And we favor heat lamps as opposed to a plate brooder, and heat lamps that are really well secured. A heat lamp and the fire hazard possibility from it is the only dangerous part about raising quail, chicken, duck, because if a heat lamp comes undone and falls into the brooder or the coop, that's where fires can happen, and you hear about that every now and again. So protect your farm, protect your family, and really secure those heat lamps with zip ties or something, but make triple sure that they're safe. So we always prefer the heat lamps because the heat can be evenly distributed and then is really spread out. If you're just using a plate brooder, then all of the birds can clump up underneath it and start to smother each other, and you'll get a lot of loss. So you want to protect your chicks from an early age, give them plenty of heat, spread out. Same goes with chicken chicks. You can look in on the brooder and see what's their behavior like in there. If they're all clumped up together, it means they need more heat. If they're spread out and laying really low in the substrate you have in your brooder or panting, you need less heat. You could just open up the brooder, get some fresh air in there, turn off a heat lamp, and they'll be okay. We like to put marbles or little rocks in the waterers because they're so small that if they get into the water, they can drown. So for that first week, putting marbles in there help keep the water clean and flowing, but still safe for them to be able to drink. And we grind up their feed because they need it to be so fine for that first week so they can properly eat it. Their beaks are so small and a lot of feed is pretty hard for them to crush up. So grind it up for them that first week, and then after that they'll be okay. What do you feed your quail? And what's the right breed for you of quail? A lot of people will ask me, well, I want to raise them for me. What breed do I need? Or I just want them for eggs. What breed do I need? And you can really just go for one breed, but it's all about how you raise them, whether they're going to be for meat or for eggs. So, for instance, the jumbo coturnix naturally will lay a larger egg than the blue egg-laying quail because they're bred to be a larger bird. Now, if you want them just to be for egg production, what you'd want to do is give them 20% plus protein feed for the first 3 weeks of their life. And then after those 3 weeks, drop them down to between 14 and 16% protein. What this does is gives the birds the boost they need when they're really early on in their life, but prevents them from being able to grow really large like their genetics want them to be, but you're not giving them that protein to create that kind of bird. What you're creating is a smaller framed bird that's going to lay slightly smaller eggs, but a lot more of them. If you want them to be for meat, then you would keep them at that 20% plus protein all the way through to between 6 and 8 weeks of age when they're ready to start laying or they're ready to be processed. 6 to 8 weeks of age. That is so young for a bird to be starting to lay. That's like express laying and express butchering in the poultry world, and that's without any kind of synthetic hormones or something weird that you're pumping into them. That's just how quickly the quail naturally turn around and how quickly they'll start to lay if you give them the ideal conditions where they feel safe from predators, clean food, clean water, no wind that's being blown in on them. That's why I say the 3-sided shelter, so they feel safe and secure. So at that 6 to 8 week mark, if you did a big hatch, you're probably going to end up with a lot of males, and you can decide what you want to do with those males. For us, we knew that we weren't going to need that many for our breeding program, so we decided to process them. And I originally thought, we should keep this from the children because I feel like they're a little young and I don't want to expose them to that. But my daughter asked my husband, well, what are you doing? I'm curious, I want to see. And I know that he has the right approach with it. It's not a dramatic affair. He really knows what he's doing, and so he's able to process the birds in a way that's really swift, humane, and respectful. She sat there, watched, and was really curious and got a great learning experience of where her food comes from, what it takes to raise it to that point, and to really savor it and enjoy it and not waste it when it's at the dinner table. I feel like that's so important for all of us, adults, children, to know where our food comes from and to really connect with it and be honoring of it, especially our meat, because a lot of us feel, I think, disconnected from it. We go to the grocery store and we have no idea how it was raised or who raised it for us, what they were fed. But having your own homestead allows you to really connect to everything. That's why I'm so excited to be connecting with Kellogg and this greater network of educators and their homestead outreach. Because I feel like there's so much that we could be doing in all of our lives to connect with our food and create the small victory gardens and victory farms of yore. Whether you're starting with vegetables or maybe just a small berry patch, or you're wanting to bring in livestock into your life. There's such a rich learning experience of connecting ourselves to the land that you can't buy it. You know, it's an education that's so valuable, especially if you have young kids, I think, to impart on them where our food comes from, how it's been treated, and what people did in the past. I mentioned it in another video, but I like to say it here too. In the past, before refrigeration, people just didn't wash their chicken eggs. They would just store them in straw, and that would be in their root cellar, and they would collect from spring and summer. And if stored in a temperature relatively regulated environment where there's not big swings up and big swings down, those eggs, if they're unwashed and they have their protective bloom over them, will stay intact and will be okay for a long time. It's what people did a long time ago, and it's nice to have those kinds of skills under our belt. Pickling eggs is a great way to preserve eggs if you don't have refrigeration. I mean, there's so many different things that we could be doing. So I'm so excited to be able to lend any kind of information to this greater network of folks who are interested in gleaning what they can and connecting more with the land. There's so many different things to possibly discuss in quail, and today was just a really basic overview of why you would want to have quail, to what they need as adults, how to brood them up, and I'm sure you'll have many other questions, which hopefully I can answer in a Q&A through Kellogg Garden here, and if not, you can always reach out to me